Quite a bit of stuff. At this point, you should know all the moves for all the pieces, how to checkmate your opponent with 2 rooks or with 1 queen. We went over some basic opening strategy and even looked at an opening that even grandmasters play, the Gyoko piano. And we started looking at endgames, and we did our opposition and even our pawn endgames. And so we've gotten through quite a bit of stuff. And we're coming to the point where I want to do something kind of fun. We're going to go through a Grandmaster game move by move and just kind of look at why they made the moves they made and kind of what decisions happened through the game. And it's also just kind of cool. This game is a game between Edward Lasker, who is actually the uncle of Emanuel Lasker, who was a world champion, and Sir George Thomas, who was a very good English chess player. And it's a good story that these guys played. It was at a time when there was a war going on, and Edward Lasker had to defect, and he came into the English Chess Club, and there was a whole group of players playing there, and he sat down, and they paired him up against their best player, Sir George Thomas, and everybody grouped up, and they gave Lasker the white pieces, because chess has a bunch of respect and gentleman qualities, and so they always give white, or the guest white, and he played this move, and so we have, you got to kind of picture yourself in the setting with Lasker playing the chess game, and everybody sitting around watching. And so Lasker's playing it, and at this time, Lasker came in, he's from Germany, he's a guest in the club, but nobody really knew who he was. So he's jumping into this club, and people think he's just some guest who's there, don't know he's good, and they're expecting Sir George Thomas, who's playing the black side, to beat him really easily. So we have this great game, and this game was played over 100 years ago, so it's very, very popular, and it's a famous chess game. And so we see some of the things we see. Now this is an opening we haven't seen before. This is called the Dutch. And it's a little bit different than what we're used to, but no matter what opening we see pawns that are attacking the center, and we're going to see knights and bishops coming out, and we're going to see the king's castle. And so even though there's a lot of different ways to do that, whenever you're seeing high-rated games, you're going to still see them do those things. So in this game, white moves the knight out, and then black moves the knight, and then white moves his bishop to this square. And then here he's got a pin on the knight to the queen, which we talked about pins in one lesson. And so if Sir George Thomas were to move the knight, the bishop would take the queen. So when that happens, just like we talked about, he got rid of the pin as quickly as he could. And then in the Dutch, these are moves that are probably the best. You almost always take that knight. And so Sir George Thomas takes back. And then Lasker pushed his pawn into the center. And we see, just like we talked about, lots of pawns going into the center. That's the focal point of the chessboard. Now, after pawn takes and knight takes, if we count up material, it's perfectly even. Both sides have the same amount of points. So as we go through the game, we're going to keep track of points and be real careful about knowing how far we're ahead and behind. And so here we're still looking at, especially getting castle and safe, and then moving knights and bishops out. So in this game, this knight moved here, and then the knight moved here. And I especially picked this game too, because in my next couple lessons, we're going to go over attacking the king. And we're going to get into more strategies on how you can try to checkmate the king and what the best ways of doing that are. And this is a great game for attacking the king, and we really get to see some style points here. So black castles now gets his king safe, and then this bishop comes here, and then black pushes his pawn over here on the side of the board, and then white moves his knight into the middle, and then this bishop comes here, and now in this game we get to a point where, okay, lots of knights and bishops are moved. White hasn't castled yet, but this is what we'd probably call the start of the middle game here. This is the start of, what should our next strategy be after we attack the center and develop minor pieces and castle? And there's lots of different things you can do that we're going to talk about, whether it's trying to attack a weak point on your opponent, whether it's trying to then, after that, use your rooks and queens like we talked about one lesson, or what are we going to do after we've done those 3 things? Well, Lasker decides to go on a big kingside attack, and that's one of your more fun options in chess, is to try to go checkmate your opponent's king. And so we're going to see he brings his queen out, because whenever you try to checkmate, that's going to be the time you need your queen. The queen's going to be the most powerful piece, and it's going to give you your most chance to attack the king. And already he has some threats. So when we see good players play, we're going to see him thinking ahead and really trying to see what's going to happen next. I'm going to take these pieces out. So in this position, when Lasker plays his queen there, his idea is that if he has a free move, he's going to move his knight and take the bishop, and that's going to be check. And then when his opponent takes back, with any piece he takes back with, We're going to play, Lasker's going to play, I'll take this out too, queen takes pawn, and that would be checkmate, because now that this knight's gone, this bishop has an open lane, and it's protected. And so there's no way that black can get out. His king can't sneak out here, because this knight guards. So Sir George Thomas's a good player, he sees that. He's also thinking ahead, and he makes this nice little move. Now, again, you can see he's thinking ahead. It doesn't look like that move does anything, but if white plays knight takes bishop, then this pawn will take back, and the queen will guard this pawn so white can't take, so he's not able to checkmate. So this is where chess history was really made here. I want everybody to take a good look at this position, and you know something crazy is coming, and pretend that you're Edward Lasker, and you know it's 1900, and see if you can come up with the right move here and what he's going to do. I'll give everyone a second to think. Really take a look at it, and remember, he goes on a crazy attack here, and he's trying to checkmate his opponent. See what you might have tried. And like we said before, you pause your tape here, maybe set the position up on your chessboard so you can try out some different things, see if you can solve it. This is definitely a fun position. Okay, so now after you've checked it out, maybe you were just as brilliant as Edward Lasker, and you came up with this move, which was queen takes pawn check. And this is one of the most fun things in chess. Now when you play chess, winning a chess game by a big attack is already fun. But one of the things that chess players really look forward to is winning with a sacrifice, which means you're going to give material away for free to help your attack happen and still win. It gives you all the style points and all the fun things you're looking for. So here, you know, everybody in the chess club in England is shocked. You know, he sacrifices his queen, and everything's on the line now. If white isn't able to checkmate, he doesn't have nearly enough pieces to keep up with Sir George Thomas that he's going to lose. So he needs to make sure that with his last few pieces left, that he can checkmate his opponent's king. And so everybody's watching, you know, on pins and needles here. And in this position, Lasker plays knight takes bishop, which is double check. And we talked about a discovered check at one other time where the bishop is blocked by check only by the knight. So when the knight moves, now the bishop's checking the king and the knight's checking the king. So it's double check. So you can't take the knight because you're still in tech from the bishop, and you can't like block the check because the knight's still attacking you. So really the only thing you can do is move your king. Now, Sir George Thomas would have loved to move his king back where it would have been safe back here. But if he goes there, then this knight comes into this square, and this is a cool little situation because not only does the knight attack the rook and the queen and the king, but it's also checkmate, and it's pretty because it's just the two knights on the board. So unfortunately, because of that, and Sir George Thomas seeing that, he had to move his king out into the middle of the board where he's in danger. So now you always have to look back when you see good players. You have to wonder how far ahead they saw. And you might want to rewind the tape later and you can kind of decide for yourself just how far you think Lasker saw ahead. Because all these next moves are very pretty. And they're all what we call forcing moves. Every move forces black, and in each move, white attacks black, and he only has one move he can make. So white starts with knight to this square check. Only one square the black king can go to. Now remember, it's funny because the black king started up here where he was safe, and he's worked down in the middle of the chessboard. Then, pawn up, check. Only one square the black king can go to get out of check. Pawn up, check. Only one square the black king can go to. Or what do we have here? Whoops. We've got to go back. Okay, so when the king comes here, let's see, technical difficulties. Okay, so we have our double check, and then the king had to come here, and then we have to play knight check here. And then the king comes here, and then only one move, and then the king comes here, and then only one move, and now it's check, and the king comes to this square, and now in this position, you can guess, the bishop comes to this square check, only one move from the black king, the king has to go here, and then white plays rook up check, and then only one move, the king comes here, and then in this position, the white king comes here, and it's a funny situation, because even here, Lasker could have queenside castled and moved his king too, and rook over the top, and it would have been the same thing, but in this position, it's checkmate, and white wins. And so it's kind of cool. That was one of the more pretty attacks in chess, where for one, you go on an attack, you try to attack the king, which is fun. But also you sacrifice and give away material to get to the king, and then we chase the king all the way down the board, and you get the checkmate. So that was a pretty game from Lasker. The whole English Chess Club was totally surprised that he won, and he won the game. And so this is a fun game to look at. You can try to do it yourself and give away material. We're going to talk about more attacks and more setups that we can do next week, and you can kind of see some different ways that you can attack. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have fun. You can look the game up, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks, everyone.